So today we've got Sanj joining us for a Sanj in the Spotlight episode. So it's nearly this podcast actually might come out 3 years exactly to the day that Sanj first reached out to us at the end of 2018. So it's a pretty cool time to be recording this. Tell us what the journey's been like. With a specific focus on potentially like the last year, because I think what you've done really well is obviously got into incredible shape, built some muscle, got in shape again, but now you've really found a lifestyle solution to keep it. And I think that would be a really interesting topic to discuss for someone who before being with us had zero concept of a lifestyle solution. So talk about that journey and how it's been, and especially in the last year.
I think the last year is when I wouldn't say I've nailed it, but I think this last year is when I've really learned how to manage everything, like nutrition, training, everything, and figure out how it fits into a longer solution. Everything I've done previously, even the first two checkpoints, I would say it was learning about how to build this lifestyle solution. And one thing I've realized is it takes time. It's not something you're going to get in a short space, like 12 weeks, 16 weeks. That's where the yo-yo comes in, where you figure it out. You don't know what you're doing. You gain weight again. And then you keep on doing that cycle. But I think this last year is been about experimenting, actually. Experimenting with food, experimenting with training, and figuring out what works for me. And I think because this year, like with many people, it's been so unstructured in many ways. Like before, I was able to have a lot of structure because that's the way I'm wired myself. But this year, with COVID, with me moving house, with me changing careers, whatever I've been doing this year, I think that is when the structure hasn't been in place. So I've had to really figure out how it works long term when things are not in your control, when there's lots of outside influences. How do you build a solution where you can stay in shape, manage your nutrition, and not be so rigid? Because I would say I've been quite rigid over the last couple of years in what I do. So my nutrition is locked down. It's very calculated in the past because that's the way I function. But this year has been about adapting, I would say. Adapting when I can't calculate stuff, when I can't. And I'm a numbers person, so I like working with numbers. I like measuring things, and it works. And I think it's recognizing that there's certain phases in this process that is a good time to practice those things. Once you're trying to build a lifestyle solution, you should be able to manage it without being so calculated.
Talk us through some like tangibles on that, because I think one thing that people struggle with is when life gets in the way, everything kind of falls apart. You know, you hear of people, they'll get in shape, they'll do things for a while, then something happens in their life, and the next thing you know, they've gained 15, 20 kilos. What have you done tangibly to avoid that happening?
So I realized that life will always get in the way. There'll always be something that will get in the way. So you have to, I think if I was talking about my own, like just if I focus on nutrition, I would say I know what I like now. You know, I don't need to experiment necessarily. So my breakfast and lunch pretty much is similar throughout the day, throughout the weeks. But then my dinner is something where I would change off the cuff all the time. You can eyeball a lot of things. You understand what your plate looks like, you know, depending on what your goal is. I would say, so my goal at the moment was, because there was so much fluctuation, I just wanted to maintain for a little while and try and figure out how my life looks, how I keep in shape, and how I do certain things without other distractions. So my dinner actually changes on a day-to-day basis. But I know that there should be some protein in there, some carbs in there, some fats in there, and that will change, but everything else stays the same because that works for me. And it's figuring out what works for you and what works for your lifestyle. What works for me might not work for someone sitting next to me. But tangibly, it's keeping certain things consistent because I like them and I like the way they make me feel. I like the way I can train on it. But everyone knows I have a love for oats, but I have the oats, and then I can train, and I can train well on them because they digest well. They give me the energy that I need. My lunch is pretty light, and I like having a heavier dinner, but that gives me the adaptability that if, like, my family have made something, I know I can easily swap it out because I've not saved the calories, but my dinner is heavier because I like my dinner heavier compared to lunch.
One thing I'll say is, Stan, if there's anything, if you nailed meal hygiene. Sanj she came for breakfast for the Void workshop, and she had two eggs on a bits of toast. She dragged it out for 45 minutes. I'd eaten, washed up, got my bag ready, and I was like, Sanj, we've got to go now, right?
You're trying to wash Sanj's plate up.
I was frustrating.
I'm trying to slide her plate under the eggs, and she's still like slowly like
just keeps putting the knife and fork back down.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
But that for example is very normal too. I don't even know I'm doing it because it's just the way I eat now. It's the meal hygiene bit is I eat very slowly, and that's because I don't eat in front of a screen, which is something I really used to do in the past. So I don't eat in front of the screen. I eat around people, or even if I'm not eating around people, I eat very slowly. But it's now so ingrained. It's when it becomes ingrained and it's not an effort to think about. It's just something you do. It's habitual. I think that's when you've reached some kind of lifestyle solution, or it's just part of your life now.
I mean, I joke, but it's definitely helping you. It's definitely helps you manage calories and portion control, especially when you're not in familiar environments.
And just to bring context to that, like I'm staying with my family at the moment while my house is being redone. And I think a lot of people are in this situation where you're around family and you're having to explain why you do certain things. And when you live with your family, you don't want to let them down. This might be a social cultural thing, but everyone's trying to almost force feed you, especially when you've been heavier in the past and they think that you don't eat. But I think they've realized that I can eat what they eat, but sometimes I will choose not to because I don't want to. And I can say no to that. And I cook the whole.
How do you handle that now these days? What's your go-to strategy
to handle someone saying
just the comments and the questions that you get? Like, what have you got in place to sort of prevent that from happening, or to mitigate those questions from coming in as much as what it used to be like?
To be honest, it's actually addressing them rather than make a joke. Sometimes you find that the default is to make a joke out of it, or say, pretend. But now it's explaining that actually this is the way I am. This is the way I don't want to eat it. And people don't really fight that so much anymore because I don't want to. It doesn't.
What do you say when they say that? When you say I don't want to eat this, what do they say back?
So it's like, oh, you need to eat more. You're getting too skinny, all of that.
Yeah. And what do you say back to that?
Just, I don't want to eat it. I want to eat this, and I don't have to eat fried food. It doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah. And then what's the dynamic then? What's the atmosphere like when you say that? And the reason why I'm trying to pick at this is because you've probably gone for me, Ed and Ivan, we've probably had that potentially 7-8 years ago when we dealt with it. But you've come on it recently, right? So you can kind of really go into someone who's very diligent on it. But it's something people still struggle with. And it's a question we get a lot. Like, people have fear of going on this journey because they're scared of what their family are going to say, or they're scared of if they're going to do it when they're staying with their family or being around their family. Like, speak to that.
Explaining to them. And to be honest, I found that because I explain it to them and I'm able to explain this is why I eat this particular thing, I find that they are doing the same. They're mimicking my own habits. So, and I said, I'll tell you what, why don't I cook for you? And I'll show you how you can make that in a different way. And I will make something that is generally classed for them as deep fried or lots of oil. And I said, I can show you how to make that taste the same, but it won't require all those things. And they see me put in oil with a bit more a lighter hand, should I say?
You're not a ladle, but
not a ladle. But it's showing them that you can still have tasty food. I don't eat bland food, and I think they've seen it because I've been around them. They've seen me eat pretty tasty food, but it isn't. I think they thought that I would be eating really like bland food, like dieting or eating well means that it doesn't have flavor. But showing them that actually I can have flavorsome foods and I don't eat boring foods.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing for them was, you eat the same thing every day. That was a big one. And I said, because it makes my life easier. That's it. That's the only
great
reason.
answer.
It just makes my life easier.
Yeah.
And then they don't challenge it. So there'll be times where I eat with the family and I'll cook for the family, but there'll be times where if I'm having a particularly busy time and I'm handling a lot of things, my cup is too full with lots of things. So I try and simplify life. And that one way I do that is through nutrition. But they realize it's a choice and they can see me enjoy it. I think that's the thing. They see me enjoy eating. They see me enjoy training. So for them, it's like, well, she seems happy enough and it seems to be working for her. So I think it's that switch where if you make a big deal out of it, the more you make a big deal out of your nutrition and, oh, I'm on a diet, and, you know, have that kind of down mentality, I think people pick up on that. Whereas if they see you enjoying what you're doing, then you'll find that they're more bought in.
So one thing we'll hear is like, oh, you know, I'm a working mom. I've got kids, the young kids. It's impossible for me to do this long term. You know, I need something that's quick and get it done, and you know, hope for the best. What have you, if you look back over your 3 years, what would you say some tangible turning points are for you where you were like, actually, I can't believe I didn't do this earlier? Like, what were some key things you think, if every sort of person in my position did this, it'd be so easy?
I would say, firstly, I think initially it was the morning training, because that took the hard bit out. Like when I was learning, because I remember I didn't train at all before. So it was completely new. So I used to train really, really early in the morning. So it didn't impact the rest of the family. So my kids weren't even up in the morning when I trained initially. That really helped because life gets in the way, kids get sick, work comes up, lots of things happen. So by doing it so early, or as early as I could in those days, it just simplified things for me. And it got my routine in place. So I could train, I could do all those things before the kids got up. I think what's changed now is, although I still would love to do morning training, in my current environment, I can't do that. So again, it was adapting. And the way I manage it now is I want to call them shorter sessions. So I go to the gym, and that's my time for myself, and I walk there. So I'm still active. I use that as very much a mental downtime. But when I'm there, I would say my weekdays, my sessions are a lot shorter. And then I have longer sessions during the weekend because I have more time.
Yeah, no, I'm just finding that. I'm just finding that. You know, when you say all these things, like the amount of times I hear, like, oh yeah, this can't be done, or that can't be done, or I don't have time for this, don't have time for that. So I'm just like, yeah, Sanj just hit it in one. And I'm also looking at Ivan.
That's what's making me laugh.
I think he's had a heavy week as well, and he's like, he's struggling with the time zone today.
No,
and as you were saying, I was smiling at you, and then I just see Ivan like
yeah, adjusting. No, it's all true though, because I'm laughing too, because Sanj is like, I've told her this before. She's my case study for all the articles I write. You know, like for the PCOS stuff, for the busy mum stuff. Like she smashes it all out of the park, despite being put in these same situations that a lot of mums come to us with. You know, and it's just like, I just want to chime in and go, see, she can do it. Everyone can do it if they really want to. You have the time, you just have to find the time, but you need to work out ways to find the time. That's what I've been biting my tongue, because I know, can't potentially say that, but it's out of the bag now. So
Ivan has you in his mind when he's writing.
Oh, thank
yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. You're the epitome of what can be done, right? Like you have all the excuses to use if you really wanted to, but you don't. You've made it work. So it's just good stuff. Keep going.
Thank you. I think that a particular lifestyle brings you. Like, I don't think if I didn't have this journey, this process, I wouldn't have been able to deal with half the stuff I had to deal with over the last 3 years. So actually it became a part of life, but I almost needed that. I needed this to go through these phases. I'm going to call them phases. Like in order to get to the lifestyle solution, I had to go through a lot of crap. But every time I did it, I got stronger. I got mentally stronger.
Like what? What was some of this crap that you mentioned?
So I got divorced this earlier this year. But on the back of that, that's just a piece of paper. But there's a lot of stuff that happens to get to that point. So you'll be challenged constantly. I got made redundant at one point. So that was all this year. So COVID happens, I get made redundant. I'm buying a new house. I'm trying to juggle all of these things at the same time. And I think if I didn't have certain things in place, and I'm going to use training as one of those, I wouldn't be able to switch. I wouldn't be able to do it, because I had to learn. And I want to go as far as to say, like, going through the grind is one of the hardest things. But if you can do that, then you have to face your demons, because it's lonely. I think the transformation journey can be lonely, but that loneliness is where you find where your pain points really are, and you have to address them. That's the only way you can get through it. But going through
you can't hide from them with like food. Most people resort to food in those instances, to feel comfort. But in the grind, no, you can't do that. You need to face everything. So,
and I think if you can get through that, after what came after, I'm not going to say it was easy, because it really wasn't, but you're able to cope in a different way. So, training for me was a way of coping, and people couldn't call it a crutch. I've had that. Oh, you just use it as a crutch. Yeah, that's fine. I'd rather have that as a crutch than eating the bag of chocolates, which is what I would have done in the past. If it's a crutch, it's a crutch, but it's giving me a different benefit. I feel so much healthier.
But I think there's also a big difference between a crutch and a coping mechanism, because ultimately a crutch, well, you're always, excuse me, there's always going to be something you do to manage stress. Some people that might be meditation, some people that might be talking to other people, some might be a long bath, whatever it is. If you want to be a cynic, you can just say, oh, that's a crutch. Well, the truth is, a crutch is something that helps you, is like an external thing that just helps you get by. But what you've shown is that you actually understand principles, which has allowed you to get to this lifestyle solution. Like a crutch would be a set training program, a set meal plan. Like, this is what I do to maintain my weight. And that's, can get you in shape, and it can keep you in shape for a little while. But I would agree that's a crutch. But if you really understand the principles, which you've shown since you weren't able to train early in the morning anymore, you're not training at one point, you're training at home, now you're training in the gym, you've changed jobs, you're now worried on a set meal plan at this time, your meal times are completely changed. I've got flexible meals with your family in the evening. None of those plans are, like, if you'd had to stick to that plan to stay in shape, and then those things have changed and you've gained weight, then I'd agree that's a crutch. But by implementing the principles, you've adapted all of these things, and you've still managed high amounts of stress really well, and stayed in shape, and managed to actually improve in terms of like health and fitness side of things. So I think like you can easily just snatch it and say it's a crutch, but reality is it's only a crutch if it's a set thing you have to do. You've understood the principles, and I think what you've gone through today is like such a good example of like, that is when you really achieve the lifestyle solution kind of status, is when this isn't my plan to stay in shape, this isn't my weight loss plan, this isn't this plan, it's just like, these are the principles that I live by, and you can throw me on Mars and I'll still just stay in shape, kind of thing.
And I think that's where I didn't even think of it as a lifestyle solution or a lifestyle principle. It was just life. I don't think of it as a plan. It is just the way I live. And I think when you can do that, your attitude changes. Like, I want to be a healthy person, so this is what I do to stay healthy. And you still get a lot of backlash, I think, because some people still think of you as a heavy person. Right? They think of you as that person. You don't eat, you must not eat. No, I do eat. this is just the way I am now. This is, I am never going to be that person again, you know. And going, and then the other thing is, oh, you must train every day. Or you must go to the gym every day to stay like that. There's a lot of assumptions that people make, but in reality is you can juggle a lot. You just need to have certain things you like doing. And for some people that might be, you know, if you can't go to the gym or you can't train at home, you'll find something that you like doing, and it's building that into your day to day.
What would you say your goals are now? Like, we did the last podcast we did was on it's coming out before this, is around like what our goals were for next year, but also discussing a bit on like the most we want to push to, like what we're willing to do to go to that next level. Have you thought about like what your fitness journey will evolve into now? Is it around simply just staying in shape, staying healthy, or, you know, would you go on a long muscle building phase? Have you thought about what's next for you?
So
Now that you've cracked this? Yeah.
I've been thinking about this over the last couple of weeks, and at first I thought I was going to maintain, and it's because, again, part of recognizing how I am, the new me, and I'm going to call it the new me because I am definitely not the person 3 years ago. But I thought, I recognize when my cup is too full. I know when my stress levels are too high. So I wanted to just maintain at this point, but I think I'm ready for another muscle building phase now. And
so what does that look like for you? What sort of, what does a muscle building phase look like to you?
So it's long. It's not going to be something like a shoot next year necessarily, but it is something that I want to just gain strength. I think at the moment I've been training hard, but I want to really push. I want to see what I can actually push to, but do it slowly and be progressive. But I know that at the moment, like I said, I've had to adapt, that my sessions are shorter. It's getting consistency back where I can actually put the time in, put the effort in, and focus on my training, which I do focus on, but I really want to focus on it and start building. And that means I don't focus on probably certain certain areas, like the glutes or the legs.
Yeah.
And then just work up from there.
So would you be okay with like embracing the fluff type muscle building, or like?
I think you have to. I think if you're going to really go for a muscle building phase, you have to go through that fear. And again, and I always say it's one of my favorite phases at the moment. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's just, you're going to have to do it. And it doesn't mean that you start gaining weight really rapidly, but there'll be a point where it's going to have to get a bit fluffy, and I'm going to have to deal with it.
Oh, we'll see.
Oats.
Yeah, we'll see how many oats you're eating then.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll be having 5 bowls of meal soon. In the Ivan diet.
I'll be all right
Yes. Yes. Imagine her eating my diet. It would take her all day to eat one meal, literally 24 hours.
You'll have a spoon in her hand all day.
Yeah. That's awesome, Sanj. Good to hear. Very excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, I think that will be something that I think will just be another round of muscle building, and I just want to see what I can achieve physically. Because again, I know
you're still quite new to your training career. You know what I mean? Like, I still think there are some good gains to still be made, which is cool.
And I think that's what it's recognizing, the fact that you're still I would class myself as still a beginner, because I'm only 3 years into training. That's fairly new. It's not like I've ever trained before. So, it's recognizing that and another thing is not comparing yourself. I think a lot of people will go down that rabbit hole where you start comparing yourself. This person's lifting this, or this person can do this. And it's just knowing your own limitations. Like, I don't want to get injured because I've done something that I shouldn't have done. Sometimes injuries are like unavoidable, but there's times where it is avoidable, but you just did something for ego or whatever it might have been. So it's just recognizing I just need to build up to it. But yeah, I'm still new to training journey. You're right.
I think if you do hit a checkpoint, or do a photo shoot or whatever, and you want to try and beat that again in the future, so whether it's a year, 2 years down the line, you want to do another shoot, if you actually want to see substantial changes between shoot 1, shoot 2, or checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2, you've got to put in the work from a muscle building perspective, because unless you just diet harder and get a little bit leaner, they might look a little bit different. But the reality is, between those time points, the only thing you can really do to change how you look is going to be by building muscle. So for anyone listening who wants, has hit checkpoint before and wants to then try and beat it again, like if you just spend a year maintaining or 2 years maintaining, that's fine if you just want to maintain forever. But if you then just do another shoot, it's just going to be going back to that same place before. And I think if you're doing another shoot, you do it because you want to beat what you'd lay down in that first attempt.
I think so. Like if I try to do a shoot now, I don't think I'd look very different, because I know that I've made some gains, but not enough to be drastically different from shoot 1 to shoot 2. I know that. So there's no way I would do a shoot now. But it's tempting for a lot of people just to see. Like I'll probably get a little bit leaner, but I will look exactly the same pretty much, because I haven't actually invest properly.
It's tempting for the people that are only on it when they're doing a shoot, or they're only on it when they're doing a diet. They're just floundering all over the place. Otherwise, that's very common.
That's a crutch.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a sign. That's a sign of hacking it rather than a lifestyle solution, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So let's do another shoot, or let's do another diet. 12-week challenge, and then in the middle they're just sort of going nowhere, right? Just spinning their wheels.
And I think that's so perfect for this time of year as well, because it's like, all right, should we book in a shoot for next year? This is kind of for people who have passed their checkpoint. Or should we do a diet in January? It's like we could just eat like adults over the next couple of weeks over the Christmas period, and then you don't need to. And I think that's a switch that's hard to flick in your head, because we're so programmed to go between those yo-yos.
Well, why don't we kind of segue that nicely into discussing how to set a New Year's fitness goal then for people who are not started on this journey. Because if you're not started on this journey, I think the old goal is obvious. You just need to get in shape with the right structure, strategy, and system, and then work on building a lifestyle solution to keep it afterwards. But if you've gone through the journey to a certain extent, you're in the investment phase. What is the best way to set a goal? Because you are going to do it, right? You are, over the Christmas period, you're going to start thinking what's next for next year. How would you set your fitness goal based on where you're at? When is the right time to do a shoot? And when is the wrong time to do it?
I think you go, Sanj. Go, Sanj. You go.
Say, like, one thing I'd no longer do is set New Year's resolutions, because you tend to break them. So I actually think about it before the New Year's out. It'll be, okay, what do I want to do next year? And that requires looking at what's happened this year. Like what did I do this year, or what did I want to do this year that I didn't get a chance to do? And then I already started before the new year hits in. And that's because everyone has this kind of jumps on that, vegan January or whatever we call it, or they're always
all right, Sanj.
It's always a short fix, because
I'm doing veganuary. I'm doing a shoot in April. I'm that guy, aren't I?
Yeah, you actually are when you think about it. Yeah. You need that dopamine hit to get in shape. That's actually a really good point.
But when you do it on New Year's, I think you sometimes set yourself up for.
That's what I'm doing. I'm starting on January the 1st.
What's that? Well, you're already But you thought about it already, right?
Yeah. I'm just playing. The thing is, I had this in my mind in August, but I was saying to my wife that I was like, if someone said to me now, you're going to start dieting in 10 days time, I'll say no way. Like this, I just need to rest for a long period of time. But I think it's one of those things, like waking up on New Year's Day and thinking I need to do it now. It's not the nicest feeling, right? So it's always good to have these things planned out in advance if you are.
And I think just to build on maybe what Sandra was saying there as well, is when you are setting goals, don't just think about what you're willing to do the first week of January, because everyone wakes up motivated, like, oh, I'm going to nail 5 days of cardio, I'm going to be doing double sessions in the gym, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Think about what you're actually willing to do February, March, April, etc. Because, it's all good and well going out the gates like 100 miles an hour. But unless you're just doing like a crap goal that you can achieve within the next 15 days anyway, you're going to have to keep that going in February. You're going to have to keep that going in March, and probably build on that. So just think what you're willing to commit to. If you just feel a bit fluffy because you overate during Christmas period a bit, it's like, okay, well, I feel like pulling back. But are you going to still feel like pulling back in February? Is that why for losing weight really that strong? Or is it just regaining a bit of structure in your nutrition, drop some water weight? Well, actually, now I'm fine. I'll just carry on as I was. Because that's what so often happens. Oh, let's do it. Let's smash fat loss. 2 weeks in, you've kind of stabilized weight to a nice place again. And then you're like, oh yeah, actually, maybe it's muscle building again. It's like, let's just, when you're setting that initial goal, let's just look ahead. Because that first week, anyone can be motivated for that first week. Think about what you want to be doing in February, March time.
When it starts snowing in February, you might be regretting that 20,000 step target, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it goes back to the point where, like, you can, if you wanted to, if your goal was just fat loss, you could really cut your calories and do it in half the time. But then you have to think about, well, what happens, like you say, what happens after? Can you sustain that? So it's being realistic about, like, if I was going back to the mum analogy, you have to know what you can realistically commit to. And that means 5 days cardio initially might not be the right call for you. So realistic your time. Like, you don't have to try and do everything all together. If you can't do that in a month's time, 2 months' time, 3 months' time, I'm not saying you can't adapt, but be realistic about what you can do at that point and at other points in your life. You don't have to go down to 1,000 calories if you're able to eat 2,000 calories. It's results, but not in the right way, because it's not sustainable.
Also, on top of that, though, I think a lot of people don't know what is realistic and what is not, right?
No.
So I think this is where potentially joining like an accountability group or being around professionals who can actually help guide you on this sort of journey. Because at the end of the day, like, setting fitness goals, it may sound super easy. I think trying to get that message across in a podcast to someone who's never listened to this before, it's not going to land on any ears, because again, they don't know what is realistic for them, or they don't know what is unsustainable, right? And it's that whole thing of how is someone meant to navigate this entire minefield with all the fitness bullshit that goes around, right? Like the next detox diet, the next this, the next that. My friend's doing this, my friend's doing that. Like, it's hard. Like, I sympathize with the people that don't have the education to actually understand all this stuff that's going on. Which is why, again, I think when it comes to setting goals, I think you also need guidance with that. You need people to actually explain to you how it can be done, and I think it's I would say it's almost impossible for most people to do that on their own, to be honest. Imagine, and what are you going to do January 1st for the first 2 weeks, the first month? You're just going to end up back to where you were a month ago, right? Because you don't have that guidance, you don't have the education, you don't have the like some sort of curriculum in place to actually educate you on this stuff. It's just not there. So that would be my best advice, is to actually look into getting professional help to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
Intentional plug, definitely intended.
Yeah. No, the thing around realistic goals is a really big one, because most people don't know how much they can achieve, and probably exactly. They're probably not being realistic in a sense that they're probably setting the bar too low. Mm-hmm. And most people think they'd be happy to drop 10 kilos when they actually can probably drop 20 kilos and change their life. They drop 10 kilos, they might feel a bit better. They drop 20 kilos, they change their life, but they won't know that 20 is what they need. You hear the story of like, I've gone from 100 to an 80 and I'm feeling really good. Yeah, but you feel amazing if you were 60. Like, it's just knowing these sorts of barriers, but you often don't know these until you're shown the light.
How are they meant to know?
Yeah,
that's the thing, right?
It's like a map analogy I used recently. It's like you can either be the person like there with a A to Z map, spread out all across the front of your seat, or you could be there sat there with your iPhone on Google Maps, right? And it will take you exactly. Yeah. You're gonna fall. Exactly. You're gonna end up on some dead end river that the map hadn't updated to like the recent roadblocks that have been put in there. Or you can just have a Google Maps that updates every minute, and it gives you the blueprint to getting from A to Z. And
you just have to execute.
Exactly.
But this is where you have to have right? You have to have the flexibility to learn, to want to learn. And I think having people around you who can challenge you with that 80 kilo, 70 kilo, 60 kilo. And we get so fixated on a number because we think that's the norm. We're We're put into BMI groups, we're put into all these things, and that is the norm. If someone looked at me, my BMI, I'll be underweight. I'm not underweight, but it's because we are broadly categorized into these categories. But having a group of people who understand different shapes, different lifestyles, different physiques, and are willing to challenge you, and you being willing to learn, I think that is the difference in having a community around you.
Well, even with you guys, like I'm always inspired by you guys yourself, like just in terms of setting the standards. Like if I think to myself, oh yeah, I'm pretty flexible, or I'm pretty lean year round, I'm like, well, Ivan can really set the standard there. Or like when it comes to training hard, like you see, if anyone sees Ed training hard, like that guy trains. Like there's not many people I know that train harder than Ed. Like you think he's got 1 rep left and he's got another, he squeezed out another 5 out of nowhere.
He's got some serious demons in there, man.
Yeah, he's looking all shy right now. But honestly, like when that vein comes out of his head,
it's popping a little bit now because I'm getting embarrassed.
When he was doing RDLs with us, he apparently set a PB that day, and me and Sean were looking at each other like halfway through, like I'm pretty sure he's done in the next rep, but he kept going, and then he finished the set and he just walked nonchalantly past us.
I thought we were still warming up, but
and then when you think of when I think of like schedules and like how many things potentially juggling, I think of Sanj, and I'm like, well, I've got no excuse, right? So I think just being around people that set the standards and push the bar higher for you in different areas of your life is absolutely essential. Otherwise, you never know what's possible. I wouldn't think it's possible to be super lean year round if I didn't know Ivan. It's probably the leanest guy I know who year round, right? Don't know many people like you. So you got to know who's pushing the bar. And if you don't have people pushing the bar around you, your standards are just going to reset to whoever the lowest is. You know, the bar will always go to the lowest. It's not going to go to the highest.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely huge. And I think that's one of the biggest differentiators between the people who really transform and the people who just, lose a couple of kilos. And it's that elevation in personal standards. And you can have really high standards in some areas of your life. So, a lot of the people who come work are doing really well in their career or, are successful in other areas, but just the standards that they've got when they enter this process with regards to their self-care just isn't where they need to be for the lifestyle they want. And then when you get surrounded by people, what you think is normal just changes over time. And that is the most powerful thing ever, because I can only echo what you just said there, Akash, around when I think of what's normal. Well, I'm thinking you guys, the people I'm mixing with loads, that's normal. All right, I feel tired. Should I skip my cardio? That's not a normal thing with the people that I mix with. So you just don't even really contemplate it. And that's where I also think you don't have to cut people out of your life. But then when we're talking about Sanj, you're around the table and people are giving you shit or whatever, you can love loads of people in your life, but you don't have to care about everyone's opinion or set your standards by their standards. If, I don't know, let's say you got a family member who's let's say you've got an amazing mom, she's been supportive of you, blah, blah, blah. You can care about her opinion on those kind of things, and you can value that relationship. But if she's overweight, why would you care about her opinion on exercise or food or anything like that? Doesn't mean you cut her out from your life, but just you care about what she says on some things and not on other things. If you go to an accountant, you care about what they say about how to manage your money. But if they start telling you about how your 5-a-side football team should be playing, or tactics, or you're just what? Shut the fuck up! What are you on about? And that's what I think you almost need to do. Some people care about what they have to say on some things when they go out of their kind of scope of practice almost. You just don't have to.
Just got to go by whatever they're living and breathing, right? If they're living and breathing accountancy, that's what you go to them for, right?
Yeah. Actions speak louder than words. Always. See where that person's living.
I think you have to start having filters. You have personal filters. I think that's the way I would describe it. I have a lot of people around me. I know the ones that elevate me. I know the ones who drain me. The ones that, there's not many people that drain me anymore because I distance myself from those type of people. But you start having filters with what people are saying to you. So there are people like what Ed says, my mum won't understand some of the stuff that I do. I can explain it to her, but there's not going to be things that she agrees with necessarily or understands. But that doesn't mean she doesn't care about what I'm doing or what I'm trying to achieve. She just doesn't necessarily understand it. So I would filter out some of the stuff that she's trying to get me to eat or whatever she's trying to do. And it doesn't mean that I don't care about her, she doesn't care about me, but you have these personal filters with different people around you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes its toll, but then you realize how much energy that's draining out of you. But I would say most of the people I hang around with are the people who elevate me in different aspects of life,
Yeah.
not just in my health and fitness journeys, but you know, in my personal growth, in my career growth, whatever it might be. You find people. And before I would have felt quite selfish doing it, but I think having those people around you is only going to help you grow, and it is continuously growing. You're standing still, you're always going to get stagnant. You're going to accept substandard. But if you carry on pushing and surround yourself by the people who have that growth in them, you're just gonna go from strength to strength, and that could be in whatever aspect of life.
You got to force yourself to level up. You don't want to feel embarrassed by being around certain people on certain things. I heard something the other day, like, if your close friends and your team had a CCTV on your life at all times, would they be happy with what they saw? I was like,
I love that.
I heard that. I was like, that's really good. Like that's if you want to think about how to level up, that's keeping that in your mind is a real level up.
What do you do when no one's watching, right? Like that's
why
fantastic.
Although how you look and aesthetics isn't the be all and end all, the body doesn't lie. Like you can lie about money and whatever, you cover things up, get loans and all this kind of stuff. But say your body fat percentage, like the amount of muscle mass you've attained over a certain amount of time, whatever it is, like you can't cheat that. Like if you're eating well in public but then binging at night on your own, you're still going to get fat. Like you can't work around it. And that's why controlling your physical is like such an important part of this, because you can't cheat it. And so it is like having that CCTV camera on you the whole time, because that will show you the net of what you're doing across the day, across the week.
Yeah, and you want to feel proud about it. You can hack your way, but you won't feel proud about that CCTV footage, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought it was a really.
You've hacked it, right? You
won't feel good inside.
No.
Only you have to deal with yourself, right? And if you know you're cheating your way there, you're not going to feel good about yourself.
Well, also but just what I think this is what again, another plug. I think this is what makes us great coaches, because we actually live and breathe the stuff that we preach about. Imagine if all of us were secretly binging, and then trying to help other clients with their own binge eating problems.
Yeah.
Like, do you know how weird that would feel? How much of an imposter you would feel like?
You feel like a fraud, wouldn't you?
Legit, actually, how can and these people eventually do get caught out, you know what I mean? But imagine trying to help people with a problem that you yourself have not fixed. Like,
that's, I think, the hacking versus lifestyle solution. You can hack yourself into shape, and then you can hack weight maintenance for a little while, but no one can do it long term. It's so draining. Like buffering for events, trying to like recalibrate after weekends. You can get away with it for 6 months, maybe a bit longer, but it's so hard. No one stays there. Like if you have stayed in shape for like 2 years, then it's like, okay, I would say 99% of the time there's no hacking going on, because it's just too draining to be able to keep hacking it for that long.
You just be like, fuck it, right? I can't deal with this anymore.
And
I can't deal with this calculator anymore. Right?
Yeah, and that's when it normally comes, those people turn to the love yourself coaches, isn't it?
Yeah. That's it. That's the journey, right? The journey is like you turn into a love yourself coach when you fucked up your lifestyle solution, and now it's like, oh no, counting calories is bad, watching your food is bad, being exercise is bad,
being overweight is healthy.
Just have self-love, but you don't actually love yourself because you binge. So. Yeah, I mean, we don't want to turn this into too much of a catty episode, but
me out.
But it allows you to address all those things, right? If you manage it, if you're managing a lifestyle solution, you can't afford to hack it. You just can't afford to. It, like you say, it takes too much energy out of you. Like imagine over buffering Monday to Friday, so I can double up calories over the weekend. That just takes too much.
Yeah.
Honestly, one of the best feelings, if you put in the work to get a lifestyle solution, it's the best thing you can do. Like you can go away. Like when I went away recently to all-inclusive hotel, I came back. I didn't weigh my food there. I didn't have body weight scales. I came back exactly the same body weight. Even now, I'm like, when I do it, I'm like, you know what, that's pretty good going, because I didn't have any restrictions during the week, and I didn't hack the week either. I just had a normal sort of structure that I would normally have, just in a different environment, and I tried the different foods. But I came back, I was like exactly the same body. I was like, oh, I'm happy with that. Like it's good going. But I didn't feel that stress when I was there. Like oh my God, I'm going away to an all-inclusive, what am I going to do? But that might happen.
Feel restricted.
Yeah, but it's okay to potentially feel that early on in your journey because it's new to you. But the long game is you can do this and go away and come back and everything's the same. And you don't go there and think, I have to train. Oh, what am I going to do to train now? You just go there because you want to train. You want to train. You've actually got more time in your day because you're not working as much. So yeah, cool. I can go try something different in my training. Don't have to chase the logbook. I can just have fun for a couple of hours, go for walks on the beach or whatever. And it suddenly becomes like something you're looking forward to do. I don't know about you guys, but I look forward to longer training sessions when I don't have that time restriction. I know you, Ivan, you time your sessions like that, right? But for me, there's nothing better than going into the gym and not having to worry about getting back for an appointment. It's very freeing.
I like what you said about, like, I'm quite big on the logbook day to day, but I quite like just going to, say you're on a little hotel gym. They're not always like the best equipped, but you go in there, you just see what equipment there is, and you're like, all right, let's just see what we can what we can do in here. And then you do stuff you wouldn't normally do, and like you just, I don't know, sometimes it's even stupid stuff. I remember being in Rome in Italy, and I was doing like mechanical drop sets and all this different stuff, and just like absolutely smashed myself. But I was just like having fun in there. It was just a bit different. And even, you know, like it's probably, you know, too much for me to even recover from, really, looking back. But then it set me up really well. I was buzzing, had a really fun hour. Then we went sightseeing. I was in a really good mood for the rest of the day. You know, it just sets you up.
Well, I had this level I did. Go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say on that though, like you see how Ed was just describing that. You can see that he went in there as an experiment because he finds training fun, right? This is another thing that we may have not touched on, is like training initially may feel like a bit of a chore to get you to a certain goal, but there comes a point where training now does become who you are, and you actually seek it out for enjoyment, and you just do it to experiment. Like Ed just said there, I'll just go in here. What can I do here? Versus, I've got to do a session with these shitty dumbbells. How poor me. I need my perfectly lined up hack squat to get a good workout in. No, you just go in there, you experiment, you have fun. You're like, this is great. Mechanical drop set till you can't move, and then you just enjoy the rest of your holiday.
Honestly, when I walked into this hotel gym I was in, I was like, I'm ready for this. Like,
that was better than my normal gym.
I was expecting like 20 kilo. This was dumbbells up to 50. Like, I've never seen a hotel gym like that. And they had Cybex, all the old school Cybex stuff. And I was like, oh, I'll be back in like 45 minutes. Gonna do a leg session. I ended up training for an hour and a half. I started with walking lunges and lying leg curls. I had this really cool lying leg curl that I'd not used before. So I'd used the lying leg curl and walking lunges. Then I did Romanian deadlifts, then I did hack squats. Then I thought, I'm going to finish on like a giant set. So I did adductors, leg press, and leg extension. And then on the last set, I just drop set all of them. And I walked out. And
that's coming from a guy who normally does about 3 working sets.
Yeah. And someone saw me that. He's like, it's from America. And he's like, dude, man, where were you in that hour? You went places. I'm like, yeah, it was a good session. But it's just it was really exciting, really fun.
That's gold.
And Sanj, you're probably someone that didn't actually enjoy training at the beginning, right? You'd never trained, so you probably saw it as more of a means to an end.
Yeah.
Whereas now you're actively pursuing getting a gym membership. You're thinking about strength goals you're hitting. So you're the perfect example of someone who came in thinking it was a chore, but is now, eyeing up what equipment she should be using.
And I think I was lucky that I had the support to encourage me. Like, people, like, I'm surrounded now by people who challenge me in a positive way. So they challenge so you haven't got access to a gym now. You don't have access. When when all my stuff kicked off, I had to train at home. I didn't have an option. So I was just challenged with, well, why can't you go to the gym now? And it got me thinking. It challenged me enough to think, like, actually, why can't I do it now? I work from home. Yes, there's a time restriction and I don't have a gym close by, but that doesn't mean I can't get to the gym. So, I was surrounded by people who challenged that. And then it got me into the gym, and I love going there. That is, I don't know who's around me or anything, because I'm just in my session and I really, really enjoy it. It's such an enjoyment for me. But when did
you find that turning point with regards to training? Do you know?
It was when the fear left of not knowing what I'm doing. Like, initially, I think it's fear. Like, everyone's watching you, or how about if I get this wrong? Or am I doing it correctly? And then the more videos you send to the coaches or more feedback you get, and you make these small adjustments, you start building confidence in the fact that you're getting a new skill. So then now you're learning a new skill. Yeah, you're learning a new skill. Especially when your confidence has been quite low and you're now doing something that's giving you some kind of skill base, then it was, okay, now I want to put more weight on here. I would never be able to lift that. Then you start adding a little bit of weight. And then all of a sudden it changes into, like, I'm not competitive in nature, but I am in the gym with myself. Does that make sense? It's not, I don't care about anyone else, but it's competing with yourself, like challenging yourself to say, I can lift better, or I can lift with better form, or I can lift heavier, or whatever it might be. And I think that was the turning point where I started enjoying it.
That's cool.
But I wouldn't enjoy a competitive sport.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. But
yeah,
I enjoy.
It became something that you just wanted to get good at, and you were noticing improvements through feedback, through feeling exercise be better. And I think maybe you went into with the intention of, okay, how can I do better this week, versus I've got to go in for another session to tick a box.
So I never felt like that. Initially, I would say a lie. Initially, it would be, I'm a tick box type person. I have a task list, I tick them off. So it was, initially okay, I need to do this today. And you're sitting staring at the logbook with a tick box exercise. Just need to get 10,000 steps. I need to do this. And then slowly it becomes, okay, I know what I'm doing now. And that, I think, is to do with consistency. There comes a point where I don't need to, sorry guys. I don't need to actually look at my training log to know what I'm doing in terms of an exercise. I look at it to look at my numbers, but not because I need to figure out what exercise I'm going to do next, because it's a consistency of doing a training program. It doesn't change every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks or every 6 weeks necessarily. Yeah. It's something I'm building on. And then if I look back at, I don't know, sumo squats, I started off with practically no weight. And then I got to 70 kilos. But then it didn't happen overnight. That doesn't happen overnight.
Sumo squats or sumo deadlifts?
Sumo deadlift, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Sumo deadlift.
That's a big ass dumbbell.
No. sumo deadlift. Yeah. It was no weight at first, and then to build up, you wouldn't know what you're capable of.
Yeah.
You don't have the skill, and and for me that was a difficult one to get right.
How many reps are you doing on that?
I would say 8 now.
Probably not far off a double body weight deadlift there.
No, yeah. So the leg press has always been my favorite. Like that is, yeah. So that's hard. I've been stagnant there for a little while, so I'm just focusing on form, adding a pause at the bottom. Ivan showed, and just getting stronger there.
One thing I was going to say, that I think Ed's mentioned this before, but I don't know if it's on the podcast, and that most people who train as a tick box exercise probably wouldn't look any different if they trained or not. I think, did we say on a meeting or a podcast? But you said
probably.
Do you want to explain that whole theory?
Yeah, I think if you go in with the intention of really get understanding training, and like you did, Sanj, you had this growth mindset around it. You wanted to understand good form, how to progress, and then keep progressing. Weight training is an unbelievable tool for health, but also for taking control of your body composition. However, if you go in just with the notion of ticking the box of I went to the gym today, I was saying not that long ago to I think it was in a meeting. I may have touched it on it.
I think it was a meeting.
Yeah. I think most people who just go in just with the idea of just ticking the box of the gym would look exactly the same, or actually probably better, if they just spent that time doing cardio. And I've actually started saying this to some clients: if you're not willing to send me videos, let's scrap training and just do cardio. Because training if you're completely new, without feedback, is one, dangerous, because no one's form is good the first time it goes in. But also the effort is just so it's just so crap, basically. And it's the same for everyone when they start, that it's so ineffective. And you spend 45 minutes or an hour burning minimal amount of calories, because we know that weight training is not a particularly effective way to increase energy expenditure. But also, if your effort levels are so low, you're not even exerting yourself really that much anyway. So if you imagine you sit on, say you burn 70 calories in an hour, let's just say, sitting on the sofa. Well, if all you're doing is half-assing a few dumbbell curls, what was it? You burn an extra 30 calories across the hour or something. Was that even really worth it? Or you could spend that hour on a bike, on a cross train or whatever, and potentially burn 600 calories, in terms of like a fat loss phase, that's going to be way more effective. And if you look at some of the research in the first, I can't remember if it was 6 or 12 weeks of people who are completely untrained, the amount of fitness improvements and increase in muscle mass is exactly the same as people who started a running program, who started a weights training program.
Wow.
Which just shows that if all you want to do is go from untrained to just slightly trained, like just not untrained anymore, it doesn't really matter what you do. You just have to be more active. If you then want to go from just not untrained to actually looking like you're trained, getting those health benefits from resistance training, yeah, you need to become a bit more of a student of training, get more involved in it and actually want to improve. But that requires being proactive. If that's just something you're like, I'm just not willing to do, I would say just skip the resistance training, because you're not getting any of the benefits from it anyway. Just do some resistance training, do some cardio, and then maybe add in some form of like yoga kind of thing, just so you're getting yourself into different positions to maintain.
And then that thing is that cardio could then be a gateway for you to actually push yourself in the gym.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you develop that fortitude to push hard in cardio, and you're like, you know what, I'm actually going to take this down to the weight room.
Yeah, that's gold, Ed. That bit is just gold. Like, because you can't. People that build physiques are the ones that train hard and the ones that train with intensity. If you're not doing that, then you just get like a weight loss transformation.
Yeah, and it's like what we went back to before. You do that weight loss transformation. You get your shoot or your checkpoint. You then continue to train in that same manner of just ticking the boxes for an investment phase. Whether you want to call it muscle building or not, whatever it is, the fact is, if you're just ticking the boxes, you're not building any muscle beyond that. Just baseline of just because you were just so untrained before, probably gain some body fat. You just take that body fat that you accumulated off the next time you diet, and then bam, exactly the same. It's like, oh, was this checkpoint 1 or checkpoint 2? Oh, you just look a lot older in the second one. You know what I mean? Like,
with less muscle.
Those fake muscle building phases, all that happens is all you're doing is controlled body weight gain.
Yeah, you fill out your t-shirt with some body fat.
That's it.
And then
yeah.
But it's recognizing that if you're going to go down the tick box exercise, knowing that, usually a lot of people have an image in mind of what they want to look like.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're not going to get there. If that's what you're going to do, you're just not going to get there, and being realistic about it. So if your goal is just fat loss or weight loss, then don't expect that bikini body or that, ripped to 6-pack body, whatever your image is, it's not going to happen. And it's being realistic about that. Yeah. And I don't think people are. And part of it is probably like education and knowledge. Everyone thinks that you just get like that if you lose a lot of weight and then do a few, like Ed says, a few half-ass reps in the gym. That's not going to get you there. You're going to have to actually really take. If you want to look like that, you're going to have to put some work in.
So I think some good closing sentiments for new people starting now is, if it feels like a bit of a chore at the beginning, if you take Sanj's advice of seeking feedback, uploading videos, seeking to be better each week, it will become a source of enjoyment, amazing progression, and you'll get all the benefits that can come with resistance training. So if you're new, seek that path. If you've been with us for a while and you've not yet found that love for resistance training and you've been trying for over a year, potentially there's an opportunity to try something different, or try this path again, but with more videos, more focus on intensity, and trying to take yourself to that place instead of just sort of going through the motions.
And recognize it's temporary. Like that feeling of chore can be temporary if you're willing to embrace it all. If it will feel a bit weird, a bit strange, a bit everyone's looking at me, that's all normal. If you've never done it before, that's gonna be completely normal. The truth is, no one gives a shit in the gym for what you're doing. They just don't. They're too busy looking at themselves. So once you get over that and just focus on what you're doing, you will get the love for it.
Brilliant. So finishing sentiments, it was started off with Sanj in the spotlight, dived into all sorts of different rants and tips and tricks and all sorts. But Sanj, just to bring it back to yourself, what's the main strength goals you're going to hit for 2022 then, now that you said that muscle building is the target? We're going to see a double bodyweight deadlift for 10 reps?
Oh, yeah, I hope so. It's slow there, but yeah, I hope so. I think I had an injury when I had a car crash last year. So that I've now started to get over that. So yeah, double there.
I love how a car crash wasn't even in like your top hurdles from last year.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah,
I was actually paralyzed for 6 months.
The car crash, yeah. So that took my shot. I had like actual whiplash. So that was quite tough.
I forgot about that one as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's just me. You know, there's a lot goes on in Sanj's life. And then the leg press. I've always, you know, like I said, I always loved the leg press. So I want to get 230 kilos on that.
I'd love to say that's a good number, but it's so hard to know what's good on a leg press,
So
because every leg press is different. You know, some leg presses are super hard. Some are like
this is like the incline one. So I don't like the seated one. I don't feel comfortable doing that. So this is a slight back. The back is slightly.
Which brand is it? Which brand do you know?
Oh, I'll find out. I'll find out which one it is.
Yeah. If you're traveling, just a word for anyone listening, and you go on another leg press, don't do some warm-up sets to calculate your weight. Don't just go off your log.
Yeah. So exactly. If I went on a seated one, there's no way I would go that heavy on that one, on this particular one, because it just does, it works differently. On this particular one, it's to hit the 240 number, which will be 5 times body weight on this particular one.
Nice. Well, we look forward to seeing the videos.
Yes, I do need to send one.
Fantastic. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you subscribe and share this episode with family and friends. It's the last one of 2021. So big thank you for listening along the journey, sharing the journey with us at RNT. And we look forward to a year of growth in 2022. We'll see you on the other side.